Yo, what's up, good people? This your boy, Vans Vladi, aka Bird's Eye View, also known as Melanin as Woke. So I come before you guys again. I thank you guys for chiming in with me, most definitely my live audience. Also, be sure to understand that this video will be uploaded to my Facebook page and also my YouTube page. So if you're not listening live or you just don't have the time to listen live, I'm going to try to make this one not as long as my other videos. But if you just don't have the time, I definitely understand. But I ask that you check in with me later. That's what's most important, that you check in with the topic a little bit later. Kind of keep the conversation going, because tonight I'm excited. We're going to talk about a good topic. I'm sure a lot of people are curious about this, because I've been seeing a lot of questions flying across the airways. As far as social media, some people hitting me up personally, asking me when would I do a video talking about this topic. So I'm excited nonetheless, let's just say the least. So if you could tell from the title, tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about cryptocurrencies, talking a little bit about those NFTs, and then also the metaverse. We bring it all together, how they're connected, and then we'll do a little bit of talk about some of the cautions that I have as far as these asset classes. And then, of course, we'll talk about, how this resonates across the board as we talk about the community that perhaps is looking to invest in these and understand those forms of, new forms of currencies that are being released. So the topic should be real fun and exciting. So let's start right there. What exactly are, and we'll go through all three of them. So let's start with first the cryptocurrency. So what is cryptocurrency? It's like, man, I wouldn't say it came out of nowhere. I remember at least going back to like 2013, 14, hearing about, Bitcoin and saying, people saying, oh man, it's going to take off. It's going to be the next biggest thing. And now 2022, here we are. Okay. So crypto, simplified, crypto is a form of digital currency that is actually traded on a digital blockchain. So a blockchain which records all of those transactions. Now, why do people like those, the blockchain? Because first and foremost, it's public. It's a public record. So you can think of it as like a public ledger, okay? It doesn't necessarily have the identity of the individual that owns the Bitcoin or sold the Bitcoin or made whatever kind of transaction. We won't just limit it to Bitcoin, whatever kind of transaction related to the cryptocurrency, but it's public, if you will. A lot of investors and a lot of people that's actually spending time creating those different kind of cryptocurrencies firmly feel that the world is going to go toward those type of currencies simply because of that access to the public record, and then also it's going to protect your property in a sense. Okay, so that's crypto simplified in layman terms. Okay, a digital asset that you could own and of course be protected and have peace of mind knowing that there's public record that shows that transaction took place. Okay, now let's switch on over to the NFTs. Okay, now first, before I go to the NFTs, it's important to distinguish the fact that cryptocurrencies are what we call fungible assets. Okay, so what that means is it could be traded for something of direct value as of itself. Okay, so let's say a piece of cryptocurrency costs $5. Okay, that means that a $5 bill or the equivalent of a $5 in a euro or yen, whatever the kind of currency that you're exchanging, and it might not even be currency, it may be time, it may be service, right? It's a directly relatable transfer, right? They equal each other. So I want to buy Ethereum. Ethereum costs $10. I have $10 USD. I could pay $10 USD, get that Ethereum cryptocurrency. That's fungible. Okay, so as we transition to the non-fungible tokens, or what we call the NFTs, their asset very similar to the cryptocurrency, but how they're distinguished is the fact that they're non-fungible. So what that means is they could be traded, but not necessarily be traded for a price that's the exact same. Okay, so what I mean by that, okay, this ring, this ring, as you see here, it could be distinguished as a non-fungible item, okay? So what that means is someone would evaluate this ring, right? And they would appraise this ring and they would take a look at, okay, what kind of metal is it made out of? Are there any scratches on there? Is there a diamond there? They would evaluate the metal, they would evaluate the diamond, and then that would actually bring me a price that tells me what it is worth, okay? So non-fungible, a little different from the fungible, just from a standpoint, there are more steps that take place as far as the evaluation and then the appraisal and then ultimately the price or the worth of that, okay? Now, to think about the non-fungible tokens, right? They're being used to buy, things and create digital assets or digital commodities into the digital world, right? So we see that it's taken off in the past couple of months, to a large extent. So you see it now in the form of artwork. You may see it in the form of baseball cards or trading cards or collectibles from that sense. You may see it in the form of cars or vehicles. I saw recently that Fashion Week is really trying to go toward more so toward the digital world. So you may even see clothing items, right? So anything that can be created, put into a 3D form and put into the digital world, and so using a non-fungible token, that's what you could think of as that NFT, okay? So that's that simplified, okay? It's a lot more complex than that, but just for layman terms, so we can break it down so perhaps, everybody is speaking on the same language and so everybody has, somewhat of the similar understanding, okay? Now let's transition. What about the metaverse, okay? What is the metaverse? Essentially what it is artificial, right? It's artificial intelligence, right? It puts us in a created world, right? Or a digital world. What I kind of equated to as I remember back a few years ago, a lot of people used to play the Sims game. And in that Sims game, you buy items and you essentially create your world, right? So that's what I kind of think of the metaverse is. It's a digital world where you go into virtual reality, and that virtual reality is a new space to kind of help you escape from this reality, our physical realm of reality, okay? Now, I hope that explanation of all three kind of helps, because it's important to kind of understand that foundation and that basis of understanding before we transition to the next, which is how are all three of those things connected? And it's interesting. And I want to start the conversation there with essentially also incorporating COVID and also incorporating over the past 2 years why, something like a national or global catastrophe needed to happen in order for this push towards this new virtual reality digital world needed to take place, okay? So first and foremost, understand that catastrophe had to happen. Something very detrimental to the state of humankind had to happen to push humans towards this digital world, right? Here's why I say that is because if you understand cryptocurrency, you understand that it's on the blockchain, it's a public record, but you also understand that it is scalable based off as the internet grows, right? So as the internet becomes more prolific, as more users are on the internet, and just as the internet scales up, guess what? The mining of more cryptocurrencies and the exposure of more cryptocurrency, it naturally occurs, right? So it's an algorithm that's directly connected to the internet, right? So that's why so many people love it, right? And so many of the elite love it. But the reason why you had to have that catastrophe happen is because now what happened from there? Not we won't just limit it to isolation, but shutdown, right? Quarantine, right? When you shut down, you quarantine, you're isolated, what do you naturally do? You pick up the technology that's in your hand and you use the technology. Most people don't read a book. Most people don't, go outside and wash their car. Most people don't go for a hike and things like that anymore. What they do is pick up the technology. They deal with the technology. So as you're dealing with that technology, in essence, what you're doing is you're helping the cryptocurrency grow, right? So that's what's first and most important. Let me take a sip here. All right. All right. So that was important for that catastrophe to happen, so it could push us toward more or less using our technology. But also what it did is it actually exposed us to it a lot more. Okay, it put it in our forefront, right? It put it right in our face, where everybody was like, "Oh, wow, that's pretty cool, this digital world. Oh, that's pretty cool, the opportunity to be a creative. That's pretty cool, the opportunity to dive into things, right?" It gave us a lot more exposure to the NFTs, which have rolled out now, and it gave us a lot more exposure to the preparation of the metaverse, right? This virtual reality world that we're not creating and now, being a part of. But also, what I argue is that by pushing us to it and giving us more exposure, it gave humans, it kind of, in a sense, tricked humans to actually be the architects and continue to be the architects, because we're creating this right now. It's not something that was created years ago, right? We are in the midst of the creation of the virtual reality world, right? So in that sense, we had a pen in hand and we are writing the chapters day by day, right? So that's what all of this has done. It has put all three of those things on a triangle together, where they exist all in one: NFTs, cryptocurrency, the metaverse, right? Pretty interesting concept when you think about it, but a concept nonetheless that is true, it's fact. Okay, so let's go a step beyond this new world. Well, let's go a step beyond just the basic explanation of the three, and let's talk about why they are so important and what they are doing to our world now. Okay, and that's really a concept that relates to us building this new world. But I want to first iterate the fact that I want you to understand that we are currently in the new world order. Okay. Now, what do I mean by that? Right? As far as being in this new world order, what I mean is that now, with the creation of the cryptocurrencies, with the creation of these NFTs, with the creation of the metaverse, essentially what we have done is created a world without borders, right? That's the new world order, the world without borders, the world where trading assets, commodities, ideas, there's really no infringement upon doing that, right? There's really no hard hurdles to jump over as far as those borders of the world to do that, right? Okay, so that's really what it did. It introduced, it fast forwarded our acclamation or our interchange back and forth with the new world order, with the new world order being a borderless world, right? Now, we still had the sovereignty of nations, right? But we also now have individuals, right, that have the ability to talk, communicate, share ideas, share precious items with other individuals across the world using this technology, right? So that's really what it did. It fast forwarded the new world order, right? And it put us in a state where we are more connected now than we ever were. And it's only going to get more connected, because keep in mind, as the internet is scaled up and as more people are using the internet, that's how cryptocurrency works. That is, it's a direct correlation to the two, right? Okay. So as I hear people kick back at, hey, I want my sovereignty, and hey, I'm independent, and hey, forget the new world order and all this stuff. Like, hey, we're already in it, and we're already participating in it, right? So if you don't want to be in it, you almost have to get off of social media. You almost have to not use the internet, right? And I wouldn't even say almost. You have to not. If you're participating in these things, then you have the pen in your hand and you are directly writing in the script as well. Right? Now, why is that so important? Right? And that actually leads to some of my pitfalls, which I see in this new form of technology, in this rat race toward a more digitized world, in this rat race toward the virtual reality type of world. And the number one thing that I see there, and the number one concern that I really have, is that, hey, why is it such a push for it? Why did it roll out so fast? Because keep in mind, we needed 5G technology first for it to even get to this point. With that 5G technology, with its fast latency, right? You ask something comes back to you really fast within 1 second, right? So with such a fast or powerful technology, we needed that first, so then we could roll out and go into this virtual reality, because it's so much information being exchanged and transferred at one time. 3G and 4G weren't going to do it, right? So we needed to get to the 5G technology, and then B, we needed a catastrophe to happen to push people towards that technology even further. And now we see that we're in it, right? Now, why is this all so important? Because now, as we move toward this new layer of internet, or this new layer of the web and just technology, it's important to understand how we got to this point. All right. So when we were in Web 1.0, that was simply the introduction of the internet. Right. So that may be, the mid 90s, when we had our dial up and our AOL and things of that nature, just simplified, basic, introductory internet pages, right? Right. As we transition from the web 1.0, we went to late 2000s, around 2005, 2006, 2007, somewhere around there, the introduction of social media. Right. So since we're on the topic of the metaverse, I think I recall when I was a freshman in college in 2007, that was the introduction of Facebook. Right. So Web 2.0, that's exactly what that was. That was going from just regular internet pages to now we're going to introduce social media. We're going to introduce a social aspect into this whole algorithm of things. OK, so, of course, we've been here, 13, 14 years. And now we transitioned last year into Web 3.0. And with Web 3.0, that is now putting us, instead of just social media, remember I told you the metaverse is the virtual reality. So now it's putting the individual into the technology, right? Because now I could get the Oculus, I could put the Oculus on, and then I could be put into that world. Just like Avatar, just like the Matrix, right? So now the digital world you're being put into the digital world, and then eventually we'll get to a point where the digital world can get put into you, right? So you see how complex this thing is, and you see how interconnected all of this is, right? So it's important to understand it, right? Because, hey, this is our world now. And unless you're going to get off the grid, and unless a revolution is going to be so big though, where people say, you know what, I'm scared of this thing is complex, right? Until that happens, we are full-fledged into this new world order, and we full-fledged into these type of things as far as the NFTs, the cryptocurrencies, and the metaverse. Okay. Now, I want to go a step further when I say how are all of these things are interconnected, and why do I say that we are already now into this new world order, into this new way of living, and into this new reality. Okay. And it's important that you understand or have a basic idea of economics and politics, if you will, as I go into this topic. Okay. So we are now into the neoliberal phase as well. Okay. Now, if you don't know what neoliberalism is, I would encourage you to just pull it up. Okay. Take a look into the definition of it, because in fact, it is the politics that rule us now. And it's been ruling us for a little bit. All right. We go back and forth, whether that's a Republican or a Democrat, we go back and forth. But really, overall, what it all is neoliberalism. Okay. Now, what do I mean by that neoliberalism? What I mean is exactly what I said earlier. Now, we live in a world now where there's really no borders, right? Okay. So neoliberalism seeks to put everyone on the same equal playing ground. It seeks to encourage competition. Okay. Okay. So from an economic standpoint, it wants to empower producers, right, to actually sell to consumers, but it wants to put everybody on an equal playing ground. It wants to encourage competition, right? Now, herein lies a problem. Therein lies a problem, I would say, because although everyone hypothetically has the exposure to starting a business, pushing an item, actually having a commodity that you could present to an individual consumer, and in the hopes of marketing that actual commodity and hoping that that consumer will buy it as we have an exchange of product and service. That's the hopes. It sounds beautiful, but it just doesn't happen that way. Okay. Right? It just doesn't happen that way. And what I mean by that is neoliberalism is almost in between communism. Is not as far as communism. It's almost socialism, but it's almost trickery in the sense that it seeks to put us on equal playing ground, but it gives us this idea of equality, but it doesn't incorporate equity, right? Right? And what do I mean by that? Right? So I could be starting a 100-meter race against a 2-year-old. Okay, we both got to go 100 meters. We both at the same starting line. We both have to get to that 100-meter mark. What's the likelihood of me winning opposed to that 2-year-old winning? It's very high, right? It's very high for me. I still get the advantage, right? So the benefit is still on my side, right? Although based on face value, although looking at it, it may seem as though we're on equal playing ground without the equity there, not just equality, right? Without the equity there to incorporate the limitations of this 2-year-old, right? That's physical stature, that stamina, that speed, all of that, right? So without the incorporating those elements, I still put that 2-year-old at a disadvantage, okay? So as we talk about neoliberal politics, this is what I mean in the terms of this new world that we're living in. Although it seeks to empower the economics of the world and it seeks to empower the individual, right? It's still, in a sense, tainted, right? Because unless we start the system over from scratch and put everyone firmly on equal playing ground, everyone is not on equal playing ground, right? So that's important. That's important. So if everybody's not on equal playing ground, how do we ensure that the game is fair? Essentially, we can't. We can't say the game is fair, right? Because it's things that are a lot more complex. And in fact, there's a lot more things that need to be handled, and people are not handling those to make sure that everybody is on the equal playing ground. Okay. James Baldwin and his wisdom said, in any event, the virtuous and sloppy nature of American goodwill cannot be depended on to solve complex problems. It has in the past solved these problems or addressed these problems when it has even addressed these problems out of sheer necessity, right? And he says necessity to stay on top politically, right? That's deep, right? That's deep. It has been applied out of necessity, politically speaking, to stay on top, right? Deep. So he's saying that we can't depend on American goodwill to actually solve problems, right? Because it's only going to solve those problems when the interests of the individual that's trying to solve the problems are at hand, right? And then it's going to be limitation to the problem being solved, right? Because unless I could solve this issue or come up with a solution and then at the same time remain my hold of power, right? And keep you regulated, right? Or keep you in your position, then I'm not interested in really solving that problem. I'm only interested in making sure that I hold on to my power, right? That's a powerful statement. That's very deep. I love it, right? Love it, right? Franz Fanon, he also said that as victims, we understand our enemies by our wounds and our bruises. That makes our story irrefutable and our testimony irrefutable. All right. Martin Luther King Jr. said that how can you tell a man to pull himself up by his bootstraps when you didn't even get a man the boots to pull himself up by in the first place? Right. So as we talk about this new world that we're living in, as we talk about, the introduction of cryptocurrencies, NFTs, as we talk about this new virtual reality world, as we talk about a borderless world, as we talk about the opportunity to actually have exposure to business and get your business started and market your business and things of that nature, it's still important to understand that it's individuals and it's people that started from the way back. And there are individuals that have a head start, right? Now, why is all that important? Why did I even bring that up? That's all important because whether or not we want to acknowledge it or realize it, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, when it's all said and done, when you strip away the excitement of them all, they're nothing but investments, right? They're investments. Okay, it's not a guarantee that they will have value in the future, right? There's a hope that they're going to have a value in the future. It's a hope that with so many cryptocurrencies coming out that one of them will latch on, and then if we move away from a fiat monetary system, that we will go toward that digital cryptocurrency system. That's the hope, right? But therein lies a problem too, because it's so many individuals, there's so many people with influence and power that are producing cryptocurrencies. It's so many of them. It's like, oh, well, which one do I buy? Which one is going to take off? That's what I mean by it's still an investment, right? It's still a volatile investment. It's still a risk, right? You could get them and you could sit on them for a while. I know people have Doge. I know people have Shiba Inu. I know people have Ethereum Max and Ethereum Classic, Ethereum, Bitcoin, whatever. You know, it's so many of them, so many titles. But you don't know which one is going to take off, right? So you still have to, you know, if you're going to invest in it, you still have to be cautious with it, all right? Same thing for the NFTs, the non-fungible tokens, right? It's still investment, right? Now, it's another thing that I really don't care for as we talk about the NFTs. While I understand that sometimes you have to take risks to actually make it into this world, and sometimes you have to take risks to actually, you know, give yourself the reward, if you will. I do understand this as well as we talk about the rat race and as we talk about the 100-meter dash and everybody being on the same equal starting point. That's not the reality, right? Because even if you take a look at the NFTs and some of those that have been bought more recently, the prices of them are astronomical, right? So that's what I mean by non-fungible, right? And that's what I mean by there's a lot more of a process that goes in hand as to actually come up with the evaluation and the price of that actually whatever that asset is, whether it's an art piece, whether it's a bottle, whether it's a car, whether it's a jacket, whether it's a hat, you know, whatever the case may be. Okay, so in that evaluation, the prices fluctuate, and then keep in mind with the NFTs, there's no set price, right? Right? No two things are alike. No two things are similar, right? So essentially, the prices are so astronomical that your regular, average, everyday citizen, do they have a great chance to get their hands on some of these NFTs that are being released? The answer is no, right? So you could go to those platforms that you could buy the NFTs. You could still get yourself in line. You could still pay the fee to actually try to get your hands on it. But the likelihood of you getting it, slim. And even if you do get it, the price is so astronomical, right? So these are some of the underlying issues that I see with the rollout of things of this nature, right? I see the benefit. I see, you know, the want and the desire to you know, harmonize this world and make this world more beautiful. But then I also see how we still haven't dealt with the remnants of the past. So it's so hard economically, politically, to move forward with a lot of these things because we refuse to deal with those things that are hindering us, right? Kind of to pull in another topic into this, you know, this conversation here tonight, critical race theory, right? Right. So a child in the 60s could endure being the first to go into an all-white school and deal with that pain and animosity and that anger hurtled at her on a daily basis, the media all in her face on a daily basis. But yet we have individuals, grown individuals at this day and time that will not and refuse to face the realities of the past, refuse to even talk about it, right? Refuse to even sit down and have a conversation and understand how those things still spill over and affect people today, right? It's bizarre. It blows my mind, right? Now, as I was mentioning earlier, right? These things are still investments, right? Right? So Warren Buffett in his wisdom said, it's important to be cautious when people are greedy and be greedy when people are cautious, right? Right now, people are greedy. Though everyone wants to get their hands on something. And I understand it, right? No one wants to be left behind. Nobody wants to miss out on a great opportunity. No one wants to miss out on, moving forward and, hey, putting your family in a better position, right? But I just hope that people understand this on such a level that before we go full speed into this new world, that we understand the world that we're going into, right? Because this new digital world is so powerful that we won't be able to revert, right? Because what is happening now is everything is driven by data, right? Analytics, right? So we're essentially teaching the virtual reality more about humans than humans could even understand. Computers have the ability to process much faster than the human brain. That's related to the NFT, right? The NFT, it needs such a complex and technical computer code to evaluate it, right? To actually come up with this price that really humans not really doing that. It's related to the code, right? So we're in a world where we are relinquishing, if you will, our ability to think as a human, right? We're giving that ability to the computer, right? All right. We even incorporating it in the code. And that's essentially what a lot of the NFTs and the cryptocurrencies and things of that nature, that's why the neoliberal politics like it so much, is because essentially it's a decentralized, as we go to that Web 3.0, we're introducing a decentralized autonomous organization, what they call a DAO, right? So when we say decentralized, that means there's no government, there's no governance of that, right? Or if you will, a centralized governance of it. There's a governance of it by the body of the members, right? And those members actually dictate the direction it's going to go based off the smart code, the code that is written. So you see what I'm saying? It's the data, it's the analytics, it's the people, right? But still, it boils down to what people have access to even have their voice at the table, right? So it's just a reinvention of the system that we already live in. It does have some possibilities, it has some potential to change our world, but it also is just another reinvention of what we already had. We already had capitalism. We already had the exchange of goods and services, right? We already had that. Now we just have a borderless exchange, right? And then eventually we're still going to have the monopolies, right? So although it gives everyone a lot more exposure and an opportunity and a chance, if you will, to get started with a business, market your business, make your business prolific, eventually what happens? The big fish comes swimming on down the pond, and the big fish says, okay, I like your idea. I'll pitch you $10 million for that. I'll buy it from you. I'll roll it into mine, and then I'll eliminate you as competition. All right. So you see what I'm saying? You see how these things, the problems that we're going to face, we're not getting away from the problems with these new systems and these new creations. We're just kind of shuffling it around, right? It's bizarre. It's bizarre. All right. So that's really all I have for you guys here tonight. I like this conversation so much that, of course, it's not going to be the last conversation in regards to the NFTs, the cryptocurrencies, the metaverse, because it's our world now, if you will. Like I said, unless a revolution comes by way, a cultural revolution, which says that, no, sir, this is not great for humankind, that this is our world, this is our reality. So I expect that it'll be a lot more conversation around this as we come out, as it's more rolled out. And in fact, I even saw that Walmart is going into the cryptocurrency game. As I mentioned a little earlier, I saw that Fashion Week, they're trying to scale that up for the first ever Fashion Week that's going to be in the virtual world. I just imagine that eventually, hey, we'll get to a point where everybody is just doing it, right? But I won't go too deep into that part of the topic because I definitely have some ideas on why I believe it's such a push and such a fast push for this virtual reality. But we're not going to mix that in with today's topic, so we'll save that for later. So until the next time my voice hits your ears, I definitely want to say thank you, guys. So remember, no matter what's your perspective, no matter what's your viewpoint, whether you're on a journey to becoming woke or if you already are woke, just remember to harmonize this world. Remember to seek balance. Remember to seek understanding as for your fellow brother. And then remember to always, always lend the ear of understanding so that we could always grow together. Hey, until next time, Melanin as well. Peace out, y'all.